In 2011, a woman named Lauren Giddings went missing from her home. The police began an investigation and news teams arrived at the scene to interview family members and neighbors. One of these neighbors was Stephen McDaniel, who also attended the same college as her. Stephen acts worried and concerned about Lauren's whereabouts and seems oblivious and confused about the situation. However, around a minute into the segment, the interviewer informs McDaniel that a body had been found in a nearby parking lot. McDaniel is shocked to hear this and sits down for a minute to compose himself. This may seem like a perfectly normal reaction. He had just found out that his neighbor may have been found dead and was having trouble staying composed. But soon after this interview, McDaniel was arrested and charged with the murder of Lauren Giddings. He was acting oblivious so that he would appear more innocent, which is quite standard in these situations. But many believe that the moment he's informed about the body is very real. This may have been the moment McDaniel realized he was caught, and it was aired on national television. It is a creepy interview given the full context. McDaniel later pleaded guilty for Lauren's murder, and he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison.
And no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time or anything like that?
No one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I've always heard noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
She's as nice as can be. Very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. The only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because we went over, one of her friends had a key, we went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. The door was locked when everyone got here. We just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? We don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
John Hughes is a convicted killer who killed a trucker in 2008. 2 years later, in 2010, he did an interview with KMBC's Laura Moritz, where he claimed that he had killed numerous people, but that he had not been caught. 15 to 20 victims to be exact. He also states in the interview that he wants the death penalty. The fact that he wants to be killed makes it more than a possibility that he is lying to try and get what he wants. Still, Hughes makes some creepy statements in this interview. He half details his other killings and leaves the interview on a disturbing point. He says that if he is released, he will kill again. As of now, Hughes hasn't been charged with any of the other murders, and it looks like he will spend the rest of his life in jail with no possibility of parole and no death penalty. Basically, he failed, and he wasn't able to convince the court that he was in fact a serial killer who deserved to be put down, and he will now have to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Tattooed on the back of Hughes' head, the words, "casualty of war."
Because what you want is to die.
That's correct. That's the only thing worthy of a warrior, I guess you could say. Death.
Hughes wants to be put to death. He admits killing a man in Ohio, stabbing him to death. Then on the run from Ohio police with his girlfriend and 2 other people, Hughes says he killed Valentin Kurlichuk, shot him in the mouth in this rest area north of Platte City, Missouri. Hughes says he had to kill to regain something very precious to him: control. Control over his passengers.
I pulled into this rest area, and that was a way for me to gain control, to show, I don't know, I guess assert my dominance, I guess you could say. That'd be the way to put it. And it shut everybody up for a while.
1 man dead, 3 passengers petrified.
Later they wanted out, but I told them that nobody was getting out of that truck, period, without a bullet in their head. And I asked, did anybody want out? And they said no, so.
You don't feel bad about killing anyone?
Not personally, that I've personally done myself, no. I just view things as objects. People, animals, trees, cars, they're just all the same to me.
What do you see in their face right before they die?
Usually fear.
John Hughes admits to killing people in Mississippi, Missouri, and Ohio.
As far as the murders that I've been a part of, but there's been quite a few.
A dozen?
At least.
20?
Under.
So more around the 15?
Somewhere around in there.
Hughes doesn't believe in God, but he can recite the verse tattooed on his cheek from the book of John.
Everyone that does not confess that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God, and this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now already in the world. According to the Christian Bible, everybody can't have the Spirit of God in them.
So you don't have the Spirit of God?
Not according to the Bible. If you're going by that route, no, I definitely do not.
The tattoo of a lion on his forearm is how Hughes sees himself.
I'm a lion, and I see everybody else as men.
And releasing a lion from captivity, Hughes warns, would mean more killings.
I wouldn't let me go, no. I wouldn't advise anyone to, not unless they want a lion loose in the streets.
Because you'd kill again?
More than positive.
There are a few serial killers that are more well known than Ted Bundy. Throughout the 70s, he was a high-profile figure in the news, and he used his charismatic nature to plead his innocence to the press. Today, he is just as relevant with a Netflix original series and a blockbuster movie being made about him in the same year. It's understandable that people still want to talk about Bundy, as there is a lot of source material to use when doing so. His numerous interviews gave us insight into his pathological lies and his manipulative nature. In an interview he gave in 1977, Bundy professes his innocence over and over again and makes a number of disturbing statements that have not aged well. At one point he is asked about a potential execution, and he simply says that it is not going to happen. At another point he says that he intends to get out of jail legally, which seems like a strange point to make in the first place, but a few weeks later, Bundy actually escaped from prison. So it's clear that escape was on his mind. It is one of the most revealing and disturbing interviews given by Bundy, and it shows us how two-faced he truly was.
People say Ted Bundy didn't show any emotion. There must be something in that. I showed emotion. You know what people said? See, he really can get violent and angry. There's no right way for me to act. Sure, I'm mad. I'm showing emotion right now because inside I'm mad. But I've kept it together because there's no point in destroying myself. I have got to keep myself together. I have got to stay calm. I've got to keep my presence of mind, because as long as I do that, I'm going to beat these people. And that's the way I feel. I'll tell you, as long as they attempt to keep their heads in the sand about me, there's going to be people turning up in canyons, and there are going to be people being shot in Salt Lake City because the police there aren't willing to accept what I think they know, and they know that I didn't do these things. And the man who kidnapped Carol Duranch is going to continue to be free, and not only her, but every other young woman in the Salt Lake Valley is going to be threatened by that person or persons. And it's happening today, and it's going to happen in the future. I swear to God, every man in that prison at one time or another thinks about going, wishes he wasn't there, and wishes he could fly over those fences. I've dreamed about flying over those fences. I've dreamed about climbing over those fences and tunneling under those fences. With every other man in there, I've dreamed about being free. I think I stand about as much chance of dying in front of a firing squad or in a gas chamber as you do being killed on a plane flight home. Let's hope you don't. But
so you don't lie awake at night thinking about it?
Not a moment. Honest to God, not a moment. Because it's not going to happen.